Hi, welcome to today's video. I thought today I would give you, as in-depth as possible, a run through of my 2025 setup. In the last few weeks worth of videos, I've shown you bits and pieces from the setup, but then I've sometimes had like follow-up questions and things like that in the comments about specific things, and I've realised that I'd not necessarily been like super thorough. So I thought it would be a good opportunity just to go through like all the ideas I've had, how I want everything to work, where bits and pieces are from as well. So to sum up the system, my attempt is going to be to have kind of like a big book of everything. That's the plan. With the caveat that because it's an A5 size book that I'm in, I'll show you in a sec, that when it comes to like everyday use, so if for example I'm downstairs watching TV with my partner or I go out to run some errands, that's quite a bulky book to take out with me, and particularly if it's got like months worth of daily entries in it, months worth of calendars and so on, it's probably a bit over the top for when maybe I might just need a shopping list or a to-do list. So alongside that, the one kind of companion book I will use will be something like cheap and cheerful. So I am a fiend for the like stationery aisle at TK Maxx. So the like supplementary book is going to be from kind of like a stockpile I've got almost of notebooks that I've received as like presents over the years, and the notebooks that I've picked up myself from TK Maxx and similar shops. So just to give you like a couple of examples of those before we get into the main bulk of things. So yeah, I've received notebooks as gifts over the years because people know that I like stationery and notebooks. In particular, one that I'm looking forward to using is I received a roll barn book in, when was it? Tail end of September, I think it was, and my friend had been to Japan, and the roll barn book has My Neighbour Totoro artwork on the front, so that'll be a really nice one to use. And I've got books in a variation of sizes. I think realistically, you know, this sort of like A6 size is probably the most practical, but I've got some larger ones like this as well. So just to give you like a flavour of the variation that I've got, this book here is one I picked up from Muji. Yeah, A6 grid, light grey, 80 pages. One thing that I found really appealing when I picked this up to try it is the most dominant pattern, you might say, is the horizontal lines, and then the vertical lines are like dots. So it works like a lined notebook, but then actually if you needed grids, it's faint, but it is there for you to be able to use. Also, it lies flat, which is really advantageous. And I really like this particular shade of grey. What's quite nice about the A6 size as well, and this hobonichi one, for example, which is a smidge bigger, is if I wanted to, I'll be able to use my A6 cover from this year. I've also got a navy blue cover that I can use too. And that way, if I wanted to include some stickers and that kind of thing, I can just slip them in. But the idea of this sort of supplementary book is that it is like grab and go, just as thin as I can make it, as light as I can make it, so that I'm not taking a huge tomb around with me. Is that the word? I don't mean tomb like a gravestone, I mean tomb. I think there's another spelling of tomb that I'm thinking of. I'll put it on the screen, or I'll cut this because I might feel a bit daft editing. But anyway, yeah, so like this Muji one is a very good example. This was my freebie from my 2025 order with Hobonichi. So similar thing again in this one actually. It's a grid, but it's like quite a subtle grid, so it can kind of just work as a lined page if I wanted to as well. And then this book I've included as another example that I actually picked up today, and I'm kind of like fascinated with and in love with. This embroidery on the front's just gorgeous. this is from, originally, this is from a Canadian company called Punch Studio. And yeah, I was in TK Maxx earlier after a medical appointment, and I decided that it would be like a nice treat to myself after that. And I sort of was thinking on the way home, I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm always into like florals, but I think this is quite a nice minimalist approach. I think it goes well with the cover that I've got on the hobonichi book here. You know, they've got the sort of burgundy colour along with the black. And I think this was probably largely inspired by a trip that I had a few days ago. I went down to London and I went to a journaling meetup, and it was lovely. And afterwards I took myself to the National Portrait Gallery. Here's one of my postcards, and I spent a lot of the time looking at the Tudors, and I think that probably influenced this quite a lot. I quite like the idea of maybe, you know, sticking this picture of Anne Boleyn in at the beginning when I do start this book. This might be the one that I use after my current everyday book. At the moment I'm using this black and white ghosts one. If you've not seen in my previous videos, the illustrator for this is Emily Dumas. And yeah, this is like my sort of scrappy everyday book currently. So that's like a sample of those supplementary books. And I think what's nice about this particular cover that I've got is because I've picked something that's, you know, very minimal, very monochrome, is that no matter what supplementary book I've got that goes in there, it's always going to coordinate nicely and go nicely with it. So let's break it down into what's actually inside this cover now. Something I also just want to make a quick note of before I carry on. I am in the UK and it's mid-December and I'm filming like mid-afternoon. So I'm hoping by the time I finish, we've still got a fair bit of decent light. But I do also have some lighting going on in here. So we've got, you know, a candle here. I've got another one just off shot. And some fairy lights too. So the lighting might change. I want to be like concise today, but I want to be detailed at the same time, which probably feels like a bit of a contradiction. But just to let you know, the light might start to go. I don't want to put an headlight on, and I don't have a ring light, so hopefully everything will be okay. So the first thing just to mention is that for next year, I currently have two different covers. On the top here, I've just grabbed it out of my sort of shelves. I've got one of the brownie plaid covers from Hobonichi, still in its packaging because I've not actually like put my book in this yet. This was really nicely gifted to me by PJ. She goes by the journaling potato on here. I'll put her sort of details in the description. And PJ had this kind of going, quote unquote spare. She had a different cover and I won a giveaway for it. So this is going to be the cover that I use. I'm thinking I'll probably use this as like my spring summer book, maybe early autumn as well, because it's got the kind of orangey tones as well, so it'd be useful for that. But the cover that I bought sort of first when I knew I was going to be in A5 next year is this one, and it's like a reinforced paper texture, and it's got a bit of like crinkling and patina almost on it. And the reason I got this particular cover was that I was really starting to, maybe like the middle of the year, I know I wanted to be in A5, but I really like the appeal, and I keep saying things wrong. A few people who I know and talk to online were using Traveller's Notebook books, whether for their like primary books or to sort of supplement their existing stickers, their existing systems, for example, by using sticker release booklets that Traveller's Notebook use and that sort of thing. And that idea of having the elastics was really appealing to me, and the Hobonichi covers don't do that. So I had a look around on Etsy, and I also wanted to avoid leather as well. So that's why I've gone for the like paper texture, because it's vegan friendly without just using loads and loads of plastic. So this is from an Etsy seller called My Verona, they're based in France, and they got this to me really quickly. And just on the elastic here, just on the elastic here, I've got what I call a charm, but it's actually a stitch marker. This was from another Etsy seller, and I think I just looked up something like spooky stitch marker or Halloween stitch marker, something like that. And it's a little skull. Yeah, rather than like looking up the term like journal charm or phone charm or something like that, I thought a stitch marker might be a good, I suppose, like hack as a way to get a charm, but like more of a like an affordable price point. So the cover comes with, I believe it's 3 elastics. Let's just check. Yeah, 3 elastics in it. So I have my main book in here. I have a like wallet type thing. I'll put the proper name on the screen, from Traveller's Company. And then I've got a couple of supplementary books back here. And I'll just go into a bit more detail on each of these items, and also the sort of spreads and the layouts that I've started in the Hon as well. Just readjusted slightly because I was a little bit out of shot. So to begin with, the main book, the big book of everything, is the Hobonichi Hon A5, and it's the gingham paper series. I currently have this in a plastic cover just to help protect it a bit further. The plastic cover is from Midori, and I got the Codex one. Initially I did get the regular sized one, and that is what I've got these supplementary books in. Now the regular size one, I have it on good authority, does fit on the Hon, but I was really struggling to get it on, and I was starting to rip these seams, and I've not got great like hand-eye coordination. I'm not very good at like DIY and things like that, and I was just concerned about completely ruining the whole thing. Other people have made it work by warming the plastic up, but I wasn't able to. So I got the Codex. Now the Codex, strictly speaking, is actually quite baggy for the Hobonichi A5 Hon. So if you were to sort of duplicate what I've done here, you will find, and yeah, this probably hopefully shows it quite well, you'll find that there's this like excess plastic here. Now, in my mind, I know the book is going to get chunky and fluff up, so I'm thinking that's a bit of give for that situation. But also, I'd been feeling inclined to make a charm for the spine of my book, which hopefully you'll be able to see quite nice and clearly there. So this extra bit of bagginess and this extra bit of give helps me with that, because I've put it underneath the plastic rather than on top of it, and I really like the way that looks. And you know, it's quite a subtle little detail when you look at it from, you know, sort of a bird's eye view, but it's really cute, and it's a little bit of colour without being kind of over the top on the front. I really like when people have very highly decorated books. I love to see it. But I think for me, I want to try and keep things a bit more minimal, and or pace myself if I am going to decorate. I think for me personally, if I was going to commit to so some people's books that I've seen, and people have done it on the weeks as well, it's almost like a collage sort of effect where they've got lots of bits and pieces going on. Absolutely love the way that looks, but I think I would worry about me personally maybe getting bored of it, getting sick of it. Arguably you could like put paper over the top of that, but when the gingham Hon first came out for 2024, I really just love that pattern, and I kind of regretted not getting the gingham Hon in the A6 size. I'm currently working in A6. So for me, it's like I'd look forward to having this design. I want to make the most of being able to use and see it. Over time, I'm sure that might change. But for the time being, I'm going to leave this, you know, quite plain, quite blank. You'll probably just be able to see as well, I do have some month tabs in here. So we've got January, February, all the rest. These are in like a sort of typewriter font, and I got these from Lethbridge Papers. or Lethbridge paper, I think it is. And the sticker sheet that I got for these has actually like two years worth of months on. So if, for example, you were using like you know, a cousin, for example, as your at-home book, and then your weeks as your work planner, you know, that's quite a common setup. If you were to buy one of the sheets from Lethbridge paper, you'd have one set for your main book, one set for your work planner. I'm most likely going to just stay in this one book for the year, touch wood. So for me, that's 2 years worth. So yeah, let's have a little bit of a flip through and see how I've set things up. Firstly, we've got this like initial cover page. Here, we received through the door a few days ago a Christmas card from our local county council, and you know, we weren't fussed about that. We weren't going to display it, but it did have this really nice picture on the front. So I've trimmed it down to size, and I've just used a bit of washi tape to secure it to the front here. So when it's no longer wintry, I'll just be able to lift it up and, you know, either recycle it or keep it aside. Here I've got one of the everyday pockets from Hobonichi, and there's 3 different sizes. This is the kind of medium size. If you were to look online, you'll be able to double check this medium size like against this video. Sorry, I'm struggling with my words. It's been a bit of a full-on couple of days because it's got this like bright green backing. Initially, I was going to cut some black paper to size to put behind that because the green is a bit sort of vibrant and a bit full-on for what I normally like. And I kind of got the sizing wrong. So I might try and do that again at some point, but to be fair, once you've got something in here, so I've got one of Megan Rhiannon's gloomy cards in here, that pairs it down a bit. It makes it a bit more subtle, and it's actually kind of nice to have the bright frame around something that's a bit more monochrome. So my idea for this, I've kept the this ghost one in for quite a while. I've kept this in here because I always sort of associate ghosts with winter and Christmas time. You know, you get a lot of like Victorian ghost stories, Christmas Carol, you know, being the kind of prime example. So I kept this one in here sort of in advance of me using this book consistently, but my idea will be that I would swap out the gloomy card maybe every week or so, just sort of as the mood takes me. And they're always like a good companion for the book. It's always like really nice to see them first thing when you open the book, I think anyway. And then we've got a few blank pages here. I tend not to use these pages. I've seen some people use the like year view page here for tracking things like their menstrual cycles. Now I don't menstruate, but I think it could be a good health tracker of some sort for me. I've got a more detailed health tracker that I'll show you in a second, but it could be helpful, I think, maybe just to have a dot or crossing out the date for certain symptoms that I experience, maybe the things that I experience less often but are perhaps acute, like a meltdown or a shutdown in my situation. Those are the first sort of things that come to mind. If not, something I have done in previous years is maybe using them for little bits of, you know, scrap paper, ephemera, that sort of thing, or maybe stickers that I receive as freebies that aren't necessarily going to be helpful, useful to my taste in my main pages, but I still want to keep as kind of a record. I've got a couple of examples of those in my current book, actually, just to give you an idea. So I've got a few of those here that just are a bit of fun, but then don't necessarily kind of go with the vibe of the rest of the book. Got my Calendex pages. So I'm going to be using my daily pages as a combination of commonplace and daily sort of Dear Diary entries. So I'm going to be using the Calendex as an index for the topics that I commonplace about. So for instance, if I was to write about Anne Boleyn on the 1st of January, I'd put Anne Boleyn in there. And it will just be a really useful way for me to get to what I'm looking for. There's quite a bit of commonplace stuff that I write down and don't look at again. But there's a fair bit that I do want to come back to and reference. So I had it the other day. There was something that I wanted to talk about in therapy that I had read a paper on in, I think, like September. And I've had a few different commonplace books this year, and I was kind of having to go through them all. My key helped, but I was having to go through a few different books to try and find it because I couldn't remember exactly what month I'd made my notes. So the idea of being able to just look at a couple of pages like this to find stuff is going to be really helpful. And then we look at the calendar pages. For the most part, this is just going to be a traditional calendar. I use a little bit of a colour code system in here. So if I've got an appointment of some sort or something that's time specific, it's pale green. If I've got social plans, it's this darker green. And if I've got like one-off tasks that aren't like things that I'm having to do every day, and then, you know, kind of one-offs, then I've got a dark brown colour that I use. For December, I think almost all of these stickers are Megan Rhiannon stickers, except for these two at the bottom here. These are from Flying Tiger. I'm making use of the borders quite nicely so far, I think. So at the top here, we've got a bit of a blank space. Something that I did each month this year was to find a quote that related to the month and write it down in the similar sort of section of the margin. I've not yet found one for December. I found one for about Christmas time earlier that I liked, that I might use instead. I have then put a mood tracker here. I am in the A6 this year. I've used the Calendex pages as my mood tracker, but because I want to, you know, keep that record of what commonplace entries are where, I didn't really have anywhere for the mood tracker, and I thought this would actually be a helpful place to keep it. And although in December I'm sort of duplicating, you know, a lot of information, it's actually been sorry, I'm getting myself muddled. In the A6, sometimes I would forget about the mood tracking because it was sitting in a, you know, kind of separate part of the book from what I was looking at every day. But because this is on the calendar page and I've got this open on the daily, it's actually been better for me keeping on top of the mood tracking. At the bottom here, I have a short, very short task list for things to get done this month. Normally there'll be sort of, you know, 2 or 3 things on here that I want to make sure that I do, sort of focal points, if you will. But I'm trying to rest and recuperate because I've got quite a bit on. So the only thing that I've got that's an absolute I need to get sorted is designing the January reward for my Kofi members. And then I've got a little section here with some like film, and I have logged media releases that are coming out in this month that I'm interested in. So for example, on the 17th we've got the final series of What We Do in the Shadows coming out, and on the 18th we've got the new Wallace and Gromit film coming out. So yeah, this has been like a really nice fun space. I'm really liking having more space, having bigger boxes than in the calendar from the A6. It feels more spacious, and I think as well, you know, I've got, you know, decoration at the top here. I've laid down a couple of smaller stickers. It's going to be nice as the weeks go on to sort of add little bits more decoration. I'm not going to go overboard with it, but you know, where I've got odd spare days here and there, I can add some in. What's really nice as well is that even when I've got a bit of practical information on a date, I've still got room for these little icon stickers. So for example, this Sunday just gone, the 8th, I went to a journaling meetup, so I've added this icon for a book here. So it's another sort of visual cue. You know, if I'm looking back, I see the picture of the book and I go, oh yeah, that's the meetup. You know, it's just a helpful, quick way to help navigate around the book. And I've got, you know, a couple of little bits in January, but just starting to get the bones of the layout down. We've got the weeklies next. The other thing I'll just quickly mention is I've got these tabs at the top. These are the very popular Midori tabs. I've used them for a couple of years now, can't fault them. They're really helpful for books like this. So we're on to the weekly spreads. I have decided that I'm not going to, time block or anything like that. As things stand, I don't have loads going on day to day, loads of meetings and that kind of thing that would warrant me doing that. And when I was in the Hobonichi cousin in 2023, I didn't find it a very useful space. So instead, I am going to try it my own way, basically. I've split the page in half. I've used some washi here. And the top half is going to be a weekly overview. So essentially a way of zooming in on the calendar. And sometimes, so I like the calendar spreads, the colour coding really helps. But sometimes if I do have a few bits and pieces going on, so this week, for example, there's something happening pretty much every day this week. You can feel a lot in my brain, particularly when I'm trying to focus on this one week, but all this extra information is kind of flooding my brain. It's just a way to kind of zoom in. But because I don't have masses going on every single week, it felt like a bit of a waste of space to take up the whole day. So I'm largely ignoring the numbers at the side here and then putting things in so it like looks the right time. So for example, we've got friends coming around on New Year's Eve. I've put that information towards the bottom because they're going to visit us in the evening. And I've added NYE here for New Year's Eve. That would be nice to do for, birthdays, big events, things that I'm excited for, using some stickers and some decoration to highlight that. But if, a fair bit of this space is blank, I'm not going to be too mad about it because I'm going to be making so much use of a lot of areas of the book that if I have, half a week worth of blank space every few weeks, in the grand scheme of things, it's really not a big deal. What I've done on this particular week, I wanted to use these day of the week stickers. So I have blanked out the days of the week with some, some white out because it was like a duplication of the information. I think where it's, the page is white, absolutely fine. But where we've got the red and the grey here, I did it and then I'm like, oh, actually, this kind of bothers me to look at. So I think in future weeks, I'm probably not going to be bothering with the days of the week stickers and I'm just going to leave this as is. Because I like the font here and I like the more kind of minimalist approach. So, that's an example of something I've tried and then I've learned actually it's not quite for me. I've got other uses for these days of the week stickers, so they're not going to go to waste. If you do like them, by the way, these are from Kunst. So that's the top half of these pages. Along the side panel here, I'm going to have like a running weekly to-do list. And these will typically be like the one-off tasks during the week. And then my kind of daily to-do lists, those will sit in my like little supplementary notebook that I'll keep on the side. And then at the bottom here, I'm going to be tracking a few things. So there's stuff that I try and make sure I do once a day. And there's stuff that I try and make sure I do once a week. And then I've got some health things that I want to keep on top of. So I've got this section here for the everyday stuff, this section here for the once a week stuff, and then the health stuff here. What's helpful is I've got a little bit of spare room at the bottom here. So if there is something that is a this week item, but I don't know, I run out of space here, or maybe I don't draw this up, I've got some room to add bits at the bottom. You might notice I've got a brown Stalogy dot sticker here. That's because of my sort of colour coding that I use on the calendar around using this for tasks. I just thought associating brown with tasks is like a helpful thing for me. I might not bother doing that every time, but it's the sticker that I use, it's the colour I use the least. So I thought if I integrate it some way into this list and this page, it will kind of help me link the two, if that makes sense. And then I've got a couple of spare rows here. So it might be that, I do decoration down here, same here. The other thing I thought I might do is I quite like recording and tracking the media that I consume. So what I thought I might do is when it's getting towards the end of a week, is just recording what I'm reading, maybe what games I'm playing, what films I'm watching. Those will be things that I want to commonplace about anyway, particularly if something has quite a big, emotional impact on me. But it'd be nice just to have that recorded, and I can think, oh yeah, like at the beginning of January, I was listening to a lot of Boy Genius, or whoever it might be at that particular moment in time. I like looking back on that kind of information. And then if we have a look forward to the dailies, so when I placed my hobonichi order, I ordered a couple of the pencil boards. And in one of my previous videos, I can't remember if it was last week's, I talked about how I was going to have my commonplace information, I think, on one of these index cards that I mentioned. So this index card is a Megan Rhiannon print off. And I was thinking that I'd probably like stick it down on this January 1st page, or perhaps on this turning a new page layout here. And then I saw, I think it was Atiyah, Dozy Ghoul on here. She had used one of the like week's pockets or envelopes, whatever you might want to use, whatever you might want to call it, attach that to a pencil board, and then she would put a gloomy in. So she had a gloomy on her pencil board all the time, and that was a really nice idea. And I thought, well, actually, I can kind of apply similar logic with my commonplace key here. So I did my dots, I did my little bit of information that I've put on here. I am using the Zig Clean Dot pens for my key. So I've been using stickers for the key quite consistently. But I thought actually the pens might be a good option, because I always kind of get stressed about, like, what if the stickers I use get discontinued, and sometimes it can be quite difficult to get the specific shades. Whereas with the pens, generally speaking, I'll be able to replace them. And that's another reason actually I've gone with this option, because if we get midway through the year and, I don't know, Zig goes bust and I cannot get those pens anymore, I can just draw up a new key. So yeah, I kind of borrowed that idea from atiyah. I've used the everyday pocket to attach this to the pencil board. And then, yeah, with me using that piece of paper, if I need to change my key for whatever reason at some point, I can just slip the piece of paper in and out and swap it out for a fresh one. It's really weird. So I've got this like grey and yellow pencil board, which is a new one for this year. I've pretty consistently used the pink and navy ones. And this is like, I think this is an example of the whole like rigid thinking and propensity towards sameness coming up for me. This grey colour is like really bothering me every single time I look at it. And it might be that I'm going to try and like see how I get on with it, but it might be that actually I end up like selling this or giving it to a friend and going back to the pink and navy, because yeah, there's something about this that's giving me like quite a visceral reaction every time I look at this particular colour, which is weird because I normally really like the combination of grey and yellow together. But anyway, avoiding that like complete sidebar. 1st of January here, classic me. I went to use my pen to draw in the line where I wanted to split the page for the commonplace section up here and then the daily log down here. Managed to smudge the ink, so then I've rubbed it out here and the page is a little bit like warped. And what I decided to do instead, because every time then I was trying to draw the line on, it was just smudging, I've got a very thin washi tape, I think it's from Typo, in black, and I laid that down instead. In the future, I think I will just use the pen because that feels quite bulky for me still. But just to give you an idea of like where I'm going to be splitting the page, that's what it will look like. And my intention is that the title for whatever it is that I'm writing about, I'll write in the like checklist section here. So the dot will go in the first bit. I'd write out my title, maybe draw a line here and write away. And then I'd be using this section here as my margin for any further notes. But what I will probably put in here as well, so I'm making the most of the space, is smaller quotes. And then my Dear Diary entries can go at the bottom here. Some days I'll be really chatty and I want to write lots. And there'll be some instances, some weeks, some months, when I have loads I want to write about from a commonplace point of view as well. And that's why I've got the overflow books I mentioned at the back. I just want to check if I've done anything in these back pages before moving on. So just at the very back here, we get a blank couple of pages after the 31st of December. So on the very back pages, I just did some swatches with the clean dot pens that I mentioned, just to see what the bleed through might be like. And a lot of people have been like unhappy about bleed, ghosting, everything like that in the new Hobonichi paper. Now for me, again, we're losing the light a little bit here, so it's probably not super clear for me, but for me, it's not too bad. I can see the ink through, particularly on the black, but that's black pen, so, you know, kind of what else would I expect? It does carry through a bit, but because I'm going to be using it in that checkbox bit at the top, I don't think that's going to be a problem for me. So what I'll probably use this space for as well will be like washi tape swatches, perhaps. That being said, one of my categories that I've put for my commonplace, because I know I'll want to talk about it, is stationery, writing, etc. So it might just be that I commonplace that information, or I'll, you know, put it in the forefront of the book. And then I think I might have done something with my 100 page. No, I haven't yet. So this year I've used my 100 page for tracking post, and I'll probably do that again. So I might just do like a little bit of decoration here. Normally I'll put an icon for like an envelope or something. So I'll probably do something like that at some point. Yeah, and that's that. I've got the Traveller's Notebook wallet here. So this one has like the zipper wallet here, and then just the ability to slot things in. So I'll just show you the bits I've got in here at the moment. In this zipper section, I've got Stalogy dot stickers. So these are the dot stickers I use on my calendar pages. I bought them for this year, 2024, and they've done me good. And I've still got 4 pages. I've got a few tucked into my A6, so I've got like 5 or 6 pages left. They're lasting well. So although they're more expensive than dot stickers that you'd get from like a pound shop or a, you know, a dollar store or whatever, you get a decent amount in a packet, so it, you know, it's potentially worth looking at. I've also got a couple of different print-offs in here from Megan. So I've got this reading log one, and I've also got a TV and film log one. At the moment in my commonplace book, when I finish reading a book, I'll commonplace about it, and I will occasionally write about film and TV as well if it's made a particular impact on me. So what I just figured is, because I'm conscious of like the amount of space that I use, so the main reason I've got the overflow book is I could envision myself running out of commonplace pages at some point. One of the things to counter that, in addition to the overflow book, is having those logs. So if I've finished a book and I want to write some notes about it, rather than using the page in the HON, I will use this log and I will tip that piece of paper in. Now that's going to contribute to bulk, but I'm going to try my hardest not to stress too much about that. It's going to happen regardless, and there are ways and means of working around it. So that's why I've got those logs here ready. I've got a few stickers here from Plumtree Illustration. Now, I mentioned kind of early on in the video about not wanting to decorate the front cover yet. If I do decorate the front cover, this is kind of the vibe that I think I'd like to go for. So these are here ready for when I want to decorate and when I want to make use of them. But also because of, you know, having this wallet here, they're kind of cool just to like have in here. I was considering securing them with a bit of washi tape, but they are quite secure as it is. And then at the back here, I've got some more of those index cards that I mentioned. So where the piece of paper that I've currently got my commonplace key on, I've just got a few more of those. I just did a full A4 page worth. And then we've got the overflow books. So when I placed my hobonichi order, I ordered a pack of the hobonichi memo pads. So we've got grid paper here, and it's the Tomo River paper as a result. Now those front pages, I think it's one's blue and one's cream, but just so everything like tied in nicely together, I decided to cover the books. So I've just used some black paper, trimmed it to the right size, and then I've used some washi to secure it. Now if I remember right, oh no, yeah, so if I remember right, because my maths isn't great, I've got a little bit of overflow here, but because these are like my overflow books, I'm not going to be in them constantly. Something like this, I can understand it annoying some people, but for me, it's the best I could manage, and I'm going to be fine with it. Yeah, like there's a little bit of, you can see a little bit of the corner there. It's not that big a deal for me. So I've got the front cover of one memo pad in the front sort of slot of the Midori cover, and then I've got the back cover slid into here, so they kind of sit as a pair. They're in that one piece of elastic, and then I've just got these archive sort of tab or stickers here. Got highlighted that this one's the commonplace, and then at the back I've highlighted that this one's the journal. And so my idea or my plan is, let's go back to here just to help demonstrate it. So say if on the 1st of January I've got absolutely tons to journal about because I've had a really good day, or maybe a really naff day, or if it's a situation where I've got a bunch of ephemera but it's not going to fit on the page with everything else that I've got going on, then I'll write as much as I can here, put maybe, see overflow down here, and then continue that journal entry in this book. I might write the date out, but I've also got an ink stamp here, and I thought it might be quite a nice way to use that. And it would be a way to keep things quite uniform as well. So I'll just write across the page in this book to account for that kind of overflow. And then on a similar vein, a lot of my commonplace entries are like connected to the time that I'm writing something, rather than like something that's universally applicable. So I don't want to get too carried away. I don't want to be writing about something that's pertinent to February Alex in the dates for May, June, July. So my idea is that I'll commonplace in here as freely as I want to. But if, for example, we're on the like 12th of January and I hit this February point, then I'll use the overflow commonplace. And I'll, do my dots as I had and just carry on writing. And you might be able to see, I can't tell if it's too faint or not, but I have started writing in drawing in some margins. I might sit and watch some videos or something and make sure I've got the whole book covered, just to make sure. Now there is a chance that I use this whole memo pad up, in which case I might go back to the drawing board about what I want to do for the overflow. I mentioned before about having the like stack of books from TK Maxx, all sort of like raring to go, sitting there. So what I might end up doing is, if I do fill out the overflow, either I could get myself another one of these packs of memo pads, and that's quite appealing because it means that the size is consistent. It means that I can, put a cover on in the same way and just add another archive label to it. But also, I want to be thrifty where I can. I want to make use of things as much as possible. So the other alternative to that is my existing collection, so to speak, of A5 notebooks. I can just use the elastic that comes with this cover and make use of what I've already got. So those have been my two options when that happens, but I think I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. Because also there's, the question of how well I get on with the paper and all that as well. Now I think, yeah, I think that's me. I think that's the setup sorted. The other thing just to bear in mind, I suppose, if you were going to look at maybe this cover or you know, getting elements of this setup yourself, is because I have the Traveller's Notebook zip wallet thing, and because I've got the overflow books in here, this is quite chunky. And now the cover, you know, when you look from that bird's eye view, the book is covered, but my tabs aren't. So if you were to put this in a, sorry, that's jangling. If you were to put this in a bag, you'd probably have these sort of get quite folded and maybe scuffed up. Something that I've noticed when I'm putting the elastic on is, you know, that's pressing down on like the June, July tabs a little bit, and I'll often just wiggle things around so it's sitting in the middle and it's not pressing them down so much. So for me, I don't feel that that's a problem, and I think particularly because I'll be in the plaid cover like in the spring and summer, that's the plan. If these tabs get a little bit scuffed or, you know, mucky or whatever, I can live with it, I can manage. Worst case scenario, I could even take them off and replace them. But just I suppose a little word of warning if it's something that you were going to look at. Like, I think I am pushing this cover to kind of to its limit, which is why it's nice to have that second one to move into, because, you know, I could see myself by like April, May, June experiencing some fluff and maybe struggling a bit with this cover. The other thing I did think about, if and when that time comes, is just taking out the overflow books and having them, you know, sit on my desk. Because really this isn't going to leave the house much, if at all, anyway. So I'll have options. I always just end up finding myself thinking about all the different what ifs, but hopefully I've accounted for them all. We'll see. That will be the adventure and the journey for next year. So we're losing the light rapidly. I'm going to leave it at that for this week, but if there's any questions or anything that maybe I've missed out or not been super clear on, just ask me in the comments. That's no problem. Or if you wanted to, you know, feel free to add me on Instagram, DM me. I'm generally quite quick to come back to people on there. So thank you for watching. I hope this has been an interesting one for you. I've been really enjoying seeing how people are setting up their books for next year. So yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye bye.